Wait a second. Travi, are you wearing the same hoodie and beanie from the last video? Yes. Yeah, we're getting some videos out today, all right? I hope you enjoy them. Today, I'm talking about blue Cad Bane, okay? I saw somebody, I think in Brazil, won with a blue Cad Bane list. It was a bit different from what I'm going to be showing you. I think quite a bit different. And then in my local Utah Discord, Utah Star Wars Unlimited Discord, there's a couple people somebody shared how they would play the blue Cad Bane list. And then I loved the look of that list. Thank you, Curtis, by the way, if you are watching this video. Appreciate you. So I made a couple changes to that list as well too. Just tiny, I think really just tiny things. Let's talk about it. Here we go. This Malmo, I think that might have been the person's name who won with the blue Cad Bane list. I think it was in Brazil. This is quite a bit different, but let's talk about it because I've been playing it a lot. And I love it. I love it. The synergies here are so cool. Okay. And it's really genius, okay? Because we all know how good Power of the Dark Side is, right? Oh my gosh. If you're a blue villainy fan, like I am, you love this card so much. If you're not a blue villainy fan, you hate this card so much. Because when your board's clear and you want to deploy your leader, you're scared out of your mind. You're like, and if you don't have a unit to deploy and you're like, I have to just deploy my leader, and you're just like, oh, please don't have Power of the Dark Side. They always have it, right? They do. I love this card. So, man, the blue villainy stuff really synergizes so well with what Cad Bane does, and really, especially, what this deck is doing. One of my favorite things that I love about this deck is it's using so many cards that I just love the power of these cards, and they all get to be in this same deck, and it makes me so happy. So, what's cool is this gets to be like a very interesting version of soft control, because it is mostly unit based, but it is still playing 3 Snoke, still playing 3 Avenger, and like my favorite blue villainy cards, it gets to play 4 Lam and Zuckuss, which I just love those cards. I love that they are just such insane, obviously strong picks for this deck. And you get to play Power of the Dark Side. It makes me so happy. So, let's talk about this. Okay. One of my favorite things about this list is I always have a turn 1 play, basically. It's we get to play 14. 3, 3, 3, 3, and 2 Bazine. We've got 14 turn 1s. And they're all awesome. They're all awesome. What I also love about playing Cad Bane is that basically everybody, when you do the big die roll at the beginning of the game, almost everybody, they want to go first. And as Cad Bane, you basically always want them to go first too, because you want them to play a unit, and then you play an Underworld unit, and then you get your Cad Bane ping, and you already start getting that damage on. And one of the cool things about this is Cad Bane eventually gets you 2-for-1s that you don't get in any other deck. And they're not exactly 2-for-1s. I like to describe them as they're kind of like 4-for-3s or 3-for-2s, because you have to build up to the 2-for-1s, because what ends up happening, especially like I love when they play into space first and then I play into the ground first, because they have to put their first ping onto their spaceship, and then I have the ground now. So then if they play anything in the ground, I almost always like the Cloud Rider gets to defeat the next thing they play in the ground, and then I choose to trigger the Cad Bane ping after that, and then it goes onto the spaceship again, and then they play another thing in the ground, and then I'm easily ambushing into the ground again, cleaning it up probably on their own with 4 Lam or, like I said, Cloud Rider, and then they have to put that ping on their spaceship again, and then their spaceship dies. And it was kind of for free. I mean, maybe their spaceship hit me a couple times, but it still died, and I'm keeping the board clean. It's really cool. McClunky is super sick in here too. There's been plenty of times where like turn 1, I play a spaceship and ping their thing on the ground. And then turn 2, I play something on the ground and they ping something else again. And then on turn 3, a lot of the times I get to attack into something, or it already just lines up where they have something that has 3 health remaining and they have something that has 1 health remaining. And I get to do the McClunky, bring something to hand, put the McClunky damage on the 3 health unit, and then after that, trigger the Cad Bane ping to do the remaining damage. McClunky is probably one of the strongest 2-for-1 enablers for Cad Bane. It's so sick. You'll notice that we're playing 3 Black Sun Starfighters over playing more of the 7th Fleet Defender. 7th Fleet Defender is still really great, but it's not Underworld, and the Black Sun is, and the Black Sun is also a Sentinel. And the reason that's important too is because we don't have any space ambush, right? We don't have any space ambush to clean anything up. And it's nice being able to have something in space that your opponent is forced to attack. And that helps you keep the board clean, because one of the ways that games can get away from Cad Bane in general, not even just necessarily this deck, is if your opponent is able to navigate a way to have especially more than 2 units. A lot of the times when they have 2 units, you still have ways to get 2-for-1s and keep the board clean, but once they get to 3 units, that's when things can start getting out of control, and it can be a lot harder getting any value out of Cad Bane. So you really got to keep the board clean. Ooh, we get to play the Forlom and Zuckuss in here. This was one of the main things that I did. I think the other decks that I saw, instead of Zuckuss, they were playing Bosk, which is great. Bosk is awesome too. I do have a Bosk in the side, as you can already see a little bit in here. And totally valid to play Bosk. I love playing Bosk too. But I love Forlom and I love Zuckuss. And there's just being able to put the fear in your opponent when you have a Forlom up and they don't have any units on the board that can clean up your Forlom. And every 7 health leader is at risk. It's so sick, and I'm a Zuckuss fan, big time. It's really cool that Enfys Nest and Syndicate Lackeys in this deck a lot of times are essentially 6 power units, because especially from my experience, most of the time when I get to the part of the game, the 5 and 6 resource turns, I've been able to keep the board empty for my opponent. And I often still have like a couple little guys still on the board, and it just makes it really hard for them to play any 6 health units or deploy any 6 health leaders, deploying Ray, deploying Bosk. So many things just really suck for my opponent to deploy that I can just ambush in a Syndicate Lackey, I can ambush in an Enfys Nest, and then the Cad Bane ping finishes off their leader. I love it so much. I love it so much. The other thing that I don't think the other decks that I saw, I don't think they were playing Rivals Fall, which is insanely scary to me, because as somebody who kind of up to this point has been a Kira main, and I probably will remain a Kira main, I love Kira being able to just take out leaders and not need Rivals Fall, but I don't know if it was like the 2nd week, maybe it was the 3rd week of Shadows of the Galaxy being out, but there was plenty of yellow boba and just boba players in general, even heroism boba players. There was one weekend in specifically, all 3 rounds I played against different versions of Boba Fett, and I was playing Yellow Han, I think at the time, and I didn't have a way to deal with the Boba Fett's armor, and it would, like, my deck was doing good things, but it just could not do anything about Boba Fett's armor. I mean, there was a couple times where I got Leia and I was able to exhaust Boba Fett, but eventually it was still just, he's a gigantic tank that was not dying. And Rivals Fall just takes care of that. Puts my mind at ease that it's even in the deck. So I had to put a Rivals Fall in here. I had to put a Rivals Fall. to take care of the Boba Fett's armor. Now, you'll notice I don't have Fell the Dragon in here. And if you've watched my Kira 30 deck video that I just made, you'll notice that I had Fell the Dragon in it, but I talked about how I was removing it to play Vanquish now. And it's because there are ships that people are playing now that have 4 power and 6 HP, and it's really hard to get rid of those. You can't use Fell the Dragon and you can't use Takedown, but you can use Vanquish, and Vanquish only costs 1 more, and I've been completely happy about it. Completely happy about it. It's great. So I'm back on the Vanquish, and Fell the Dragon's great too. You know, I think it's totally viable to play Fell the Dragon, but for me, I don't want to get blown out by the 4/6 ships. Speaking of the 4/6 ships, we've got one over here, Xanadu Blood. Yeah, it's a 4/6, but it has raid 2, so when it attacks, it hits for 6. This card is awesome. It also has a when played and on attack that I can return a friendly non-leader underworld unit to the hand and exhaust an enemy unit or exhaust an enemy resource. It's totally awesome being able to do this in 2 turns where your opponent needs to, like, maybe they're gonna it's 7 resources and they want to play out a Vader unit, or it's 8 resources and they want to play out a Snoke, or it's 9 resources and they want to bring out an Avenger. The Xanadu Blood can just be like, no, you've only got 8 this turn. You've only got 7. You only got 6 this turn. So it's been surprisingly really, really solid. The other thing I'm really stoked about, like I briefly mentioned, is Enfys Nest. I've been waiting to play this card. I was a big fan of this card during the reveal season. I was super stoked about it. And here it is. And it excels. We have so much ambush. Basically, oh my goodness, almost all, I mean, not these guys, but we've got the Cloud Rider, we've got Forlom, we've got Syndicate Lackey, Zuckuss, Enfys Nest herself, all with ambush. It's so good. It's so good. I love it. Well, another thing that's nice here, you notice the Pike Sentinel, we've got the Sentinels in space, we got the Sentinels in the ground. They are excellent. We've got 2 Bazine in the main here, and we do have 1 in the side. And we'll get to the side in a bit. But Bazine's awesome. Being able to, I mean, not that playing her on turn 1 is super optimal, but sometimes you play her on turn 1 and you blank your opponent's turn, and that's awesome. I've had times where I'm playing against green heroism decks, and we're going in. It's so nice that you can resource her too. And I already have like some solid board control, and we're going into the 7 resource turn, and I take the initiative, and I smuggle out a Bazine for 4, and I look at their hand, and they've got a U-Wing reinforcement in there, or a Luke, and it's like, yeah, we'll take the U-Wing, we'll take the Luke, or whatever it is, and then they have to have something else to play that turn that's less optimal. Bazine's awesome. Love it. Anything else to really say? You'll notice there's no Super Laser Blast in the main, and that is because, like I said, this is technically a softer control. It's kind of like the softest control. Even though I know you're looking at the Avengers and the Snokes at the top end and you're thinking, that's definitely control. Yeah, I mean, it is in a sense, but that's it. Those are the main control elements. You'll see we're still only playing 2 Vigilance in here too, right? And I don't even think you necessarily need to play Vigilance in here if you don't want. You could totally have if you're worried even more so about aggro stuff, these could be top targets if you really want, or like a top target and another takedown, or a Fell the Dragon instead. But yeah, Vigilance, super awesome. Let's talk about the side really quick before we ramble into infinity. Now, like most of my videos, there might be one change that I need to make that I didn't update for the video yet, right? And this is probably takedown. I recently swapped takedown out for a top target in the side, just because even though this deck is really, really great against aggro, it is very solid against aggro, I love the comfort of top target. top target just makes me feel so safe. And I just figured I'd probably put a top target in here over takedown. And then we've also got a Bosk in here, just also once again, just as a little bit of a bonus hedge against aggro stuff too. So ideally, like if we're playing against aggro, then I would probably take out one Snoke and one Avenger, and I'd put in the top target and the Bosk, just to get a little bit more lower to the ground, because usually against aggro, you're not getting to play Snoke or Avenger. And even possibly, maybe you would just take out 2 Avengers, because Snoke is still pretty decent against aggro. But those are just my options there. And then you'll notice we also have Super Laser Blast. And I did end up citing Super Laser Blast against some, like, basically like U-Wing reinforcement decks. Any decks that can suddenly bring out multiple units. Definitely worth a consideration playing against Kira, because of Darth Vader's. And you being able to just clean the board up. Just a nice solid reset button for like, okay, you got more than 3 units and I'm not going to be able to clean this up. We'll Super Laser Blast now, get it back to a clean slate, and then I can start 2-for-1ing you possibly again with Cad Bane. So that's what we got the Super Laser Blast in the side for. And then you'll notice the Spooky Spook. And, you know, the blue Bosks have been running around terrorizing people, making people consider if they should keep playing card games or not. And we've got the Vigilance, the Restock, the Bounty Hunter crew, and the 3rd Bazine Natal to say no to the blue Bosks. Because what's actually awesome, and I've played a little bit against blue Bosk with this deck, and the main deck, even not having these in the main deck, is still really solid, because it turns out when you have this many units that hit for 5+, and you also have this many 2-cost units, that I was able to navigate games, and it wasn't even that hard. I was able to navigate games against blue Bosk where I was able to keep 2 units on the board pretty frequently and make it really hard for them to Power of the Dark Side my higher value units. And I'm just able to hit them for a decent amount of damage turn after turn, and continuously keep, like, any unit they'd play would instantly die, of course, because we got so much ambush. So it just never made it safe for them to play Bosk either. Meanwhile, I was easily comfortable to deploy Cad Bane whenever I wanted, because I always was able to keep so many units on the board. And just in a decent amount of the game ones against blue Bosk, I was able to just kill them with my actual units. And then when we side, it just even easier, because we were able to side into just the better hard control stuff of Bounty Hunter crew, Vigilance, Restock, and Bazine Natal that the blue-red villains they don't have. And it's just, once again, just more like another unit that I get to put on the board that also gets me the Vigilance back and makes it harder for them to get any value while I'm still able to attack their base. Really awesome stuff. That's really what the side is mostly for the hard control. We got a small aggro hedge and then a small mid-range hedge in there too. And yeah, I'm a big fan of this deck right now. Make sure to take a screenshot of it if you'd like. I might have a link for this for you as well in the description. If you have any more questions about this deck, any questions about matchups or how it would go, man, this deck, it feels really good. I really don't even feel like you need to have much of a mulligan guide for this either, because like I said, we've got 14 turn 1 plays. The one thing that you'll want to notice though, maybe the one that I'll give you this mulligan advice here, is that we are low on the 3 costs, right? There's not very many. We've got 8 cards that cost 3 in our deck. But the thing is, you can kind of view McClunky as a 3-cost card, because a lot of the times what it might end up looking like is turn 1 you play a 2-cost, turn 2 you do some, you might even play, try to clean their board up and then McClunky the unit back to finish something off, and then play the unit back again. So that's like your 3-cost. And the other thing too is with this many 2s, it's a decent option to play 2 2s on the 4 resource turn, because also all we have on 4 is 1 takedown and the 3 4 loms. So those little bit of those first couple turns, you might need to keep more 2-cost cards in your hand than you think, just to keep the first couple turns smooth. And then after that, it starts being insane with dropping the lackeys, Zuckuss, Forloms. It's some sweet stuff. So before I let you go, I almost forgot to give you a couple little pieces of advice if you need to turn this into a budget version, right? Because as you see, it's nowhere near as expensive as Kira, but it does have 2 Vigilance, 3 Avenger, 3 Snoke in here. But no Boba Fett's, so that's not, it's a little bit cheaper. Some of my advice for that is you could play Fennec Shand, and also, you know, I know some of you've got some amount of the legendaries, but maybe not all of them. You could totally play Boba Fett in here instead too. You don't need to go full Avenger and Snoke if you don't have them. Though Snoke, I really do feel like is insane, and he's not too expensive. So if you can get the Snokes, even the Avengers, they're like 20 each. If you can get some number of them, I would recommend just getting some number of them if you can. If you get two of each of these, that's plenty good, honestly. I really do feel like, and even in some of my games, I was thinking like, could I cut Snoke and Avenger down to 2 each and hedge into something else? Maybe even, for me personally, because I have Boba Fett's, I could put 2 Boba Fett's in here just to have a couple more 3 resource plays. Totally valid options. Totally recommend it. Even Toro. You could turn this into like a little bit of a Toro Hotshot Blaster deck with how many bounty hunters are in there with the Forlom and the Zuckuss. You could totally replace, you could totally, I mean, like I said, I still think you should have some number of Snoke. But if you wanted to go to 2 Snoke and no Avengers, that's 4 cards. You could put in 2 Toros, 2 Hotshot Blasters. I think that's totally valid. Another thing worth considering is you could play Fennec Shand. Super budget option here too. In one of the lists that I saw from somebody of this, they did have, I don't know if it was more than 1 copy, but they did have at least 1 Fennec Shand in there, and I can see why you would do that. It's a solid option. There's a decent amount of different cost stuff in this deck, so you can totally play Fennec in here. If you need to, you can play Dooku. Dooku also helps keep the board clean. He himself is a shielded body. He's going to defeat something as well. If that's what you need to do instead of playing Snoke or Avengers, totally valid. You could go up to a 3rd Enfys Nest. You could go into Bosks. Easy. That's such a super easy budget option too. If you could go into, instead of Vigilance, you could play No Good to Me Dead, though I do, and this might sound strange, I do recommend against it, because even though No Good to Me Dead is an insane card, it's a really great card, right? What this deck is doing, and the way that you take advantage of Cad Bane's ability and Power of the Dark Side the most, is getting rid of your opponent's units. And No Good to Me Dead is a card that says, I'm going to ignore a unit for 2 turns. And while that is great for if you're just trying to push for damage and just finish the game off, that works. If you don't get to finish, if you literally don't kill your opponent after those 2 turns, then that No Good to Me Dead is going to make your Cad Bane suck, and actually just a lot of your other cards much worse for the rest of the game. Even if you do end up winning, it's going to be much harder, because now your Syndicate lackeys and your Enfys Nest aren't ambushing for 6 essentially anymore. And now your Cad Bane pings aren't even really doing anything, because your opponent's just going to put them onto their units that were going to die anyways. So yeah, I recommend not No Good to Me Dead, okay? But yeah, you could totally have, I mentioned before, you could have Vigilance be top targets. You could put, instead of the Avengers and the Snokes, you could find your way to get maybe another Rivals Fall in here. You could do Fell the Dragon in here. You could go up to 3 Xanadu Bloods. You can get the Bosks in here. All of those are going to be great options. You could get another 7th Fleet Defender in here. Easy. That's a super easy option. Just some thoughts. Yeah, Toro. Like I mentioned, you could get Toro in here with Hotshot Blasters. that's going to pivot you away from control, but you'll still be able to use the really, really powerful tools of Power of the Dark Side and all of the really strong blue tools that let you just straight up defeat the big things that maybe your units aren't going to be able to defeat, or if they've got spaceships and you can't get into space yet. Some solid options should make the deck way, way cheap for you, especially if you replace all 3 Avengers, all 3 Snokes, and the 2 Vigilance. And let's just give you an example right now, right? If you take all of those away, that's 8 cards. What do we do? You could do, let's go 1 Fennec Shand. Let's go 1 more Takedown. Let's go, do we go all 3 Bosk? No, let's go 7th Fleet Defender. We got to get the 7th Fleet Defender in there. And, you know, straight from there, we can go into, you could go 2 Toro and 3 Hotshot Blaster, or the other way around. You could do 2 Toro, 2 Hotshot Blaster, and a Bosk. You could, instead of the Takedown, it could just be, you might want to do Takedown though, because if you're not playing Avenger, you might need a little bit more ways to defeat ships. So you might want to do another Takedown. There's some options, okay? Hopefully that's helpful. I think you're going to enjoy it. Give it a try. Like I said, leave a comment if you've got any questions, and I'll see you in the next video.